The bridge of the Defiance was quiet except for the soft beeps of the control panels. Captain Jack Stone sat in his command chair, watching the stars through the main view screen. His ship, a mid-sized destroyer in Earth's defense fleet, was on a routine patrol at the edge of human space. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Officer Bob, who watched the sensor station. "There's an object coming toward us, but it doesn't match any known ship in our database." Stone straightened in his chair. "How far away?" "About 50,000 miles and closing fast. Put it on screen." The view screen changed to show a dark shape against the stars. As it came closer, they could see it better. The ship was unlike anything humans had built. It looked like a mix between a spider and a throwing star, with sharp points and a body that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Are they sending any messages?" Stone asked. Linda, the communications officer, shook her head. "Nothing, sir. I've tried all standard greeting formats. Keep trying. Send messages in all known languages and formats." Tom Reed, the science officer, spoke up from his station. "Captain, I'm scanning the ship now. It's strange. The metal isn't like anything in our records. And I'm reading energy levels that shouldn't be possible with current technology." Stone nodded. "Raise shields just to be safe." "Sir," Bob called out, his voice tense. "They're powering up something. Looks like weapons." Before Stone could respond, the alien ship fired. A beam of purple energy shot across space and hit the Defiance. The ship shook hard, throwing crew members against their stations. "Damage report," Stone shouted over the blaring alarms. "Shields down to 40% from just one hit," the tactical officer shouted back. "Whatever they're using, it's cutting through our defenses like they're not even there." Stone gripped the arms of his chair as the ship rocked again. "Return. Fire. Standard missiles and energy beams." The Defiance fired back, sending bright streaks of energy toward the alien ship. The missiles exploded against its hull, and the energy beams hit directly, but the alien ship seemed barely affected. "No significant damage to their vessel," Tom reported, his face pale as he looked at his readings. "Our weapons are like throwing rocks at a tank." The alien ship, which they would later learn belonged to a race called the Vorn, fired again. This time the beam hit the engine section of the Defiance. "Engine power dropping," called Mark from engineering. "We can't take another hit like that." Stone made a quick decision. "Plot a retreat course, maximum speed. We need to warn Earth Command." As the Defiance turned to flee, the Vorn ship fired again, grazing their hull. The lights flickered and smoke filled parts of the bridge. "We've lost 20% of our engine power," Mark reported. "But we can still outrun them if we push what we have left." "Do it," Stone ordered. The Defiance shot forward, pushing its damaged engines to their limits. The Vorn ship followed but couldn't match the human vessel's speed. After 30 minutes of chase, they finally lost sight of the alien ship. 2 days later, the bridge crew gathered around a table in the briefing room. Pieces of metal and other materials from the alien attack were spread out on the surface. "Tom," Reed pointed to a twisted piece of metal. "This is part of our hull where their weapon hit. Look at this." He used a magnifier to show the damage. The metal didn't just melt or break. It changed at the atomic level. Their weapons don't just use energy to destroy. They change the basic nature of matter. "Can we defend against that?" Stone asked. Tom shook his head. "Not with our current shields. They work on completely different principles." Linda spoke up. "I've been analyzing what little we got from scanning their communications. They call themselves the Vorn. From what I can tell, they see other species, so it's beneath them. Not worthy of respect or even communication. They certainly didn't want to talk," Stone said grimly. The ship's doctor joined them, looking worried. "Captain, those crew members who were closest to the hit points are showing strange symptoms. Nothing serious yet, but there's some kind of radiation we've never seen before." Stone nodded. "Do what you can for them, Doc." He turned to his officers. "We need to get this information to Earth Command as fast as possible." The Defiance reached the nearest human outpost 2 days later. As they approached, they received urgent messages from Earth Command. Other ships had encountered the Vorn too. 3 colonies had already been attacked. In the command center of the outpost, Admiral James watched the recording of the Defiance's battle with the Vorn ship. They came out of nowhere, the Admiral said. Hit 6 different locations almost at once. No warning, no demands, nothing. Their technology is far beyond ours, Stone said. One ship nearly crippled us with a few hits. It's the same everywhere, the Admiral replied. We're losing ships at a rate of 10 to 1. Nothing in our arsenal seems to hurt them much. Stone looked at the battle map showing Vorn positions. They had pushed deep into human territory in just days. What are your orders, sir? Stone asked. The Defiance is needed on the front lines. We're gathering every ship we can to defend Proxima Centauri. It's our biggest colony and their next likely target. Stone nodded. We'll be ready in 12 hours. My engineer says she can get us back to 90% power by then. Good. Because right now, Captain, we're in a war we didn't start and don't know how to fight. The Admiral's face was grim. And we're losing badly. As Stone walked back to his ship, he looked up at the Defiance. The hull still showed burn marks from the Vorn weapons. His ship had survived when others hadn't. He didn't know if that was luck or something else, but he knew that in the coming days, they would need more than luck to survive. 3 days later, as the Defiance joined the defense fleet at Proxima Centauri, the first wave of Vorn ships appeared on their sensors. The real war was about to begin. The crew of the Defiance stood at their stations, ready to face an enemy with superior weapons and technology. None of them knew it yet, but their ship, damaged and outmatched as it was, would soon become humanity's greatest hope in a war that would test the limits of human courage and ingenuity. 3 months had passed since the first attack. The war with the Vorn was going badly for humans. 20 colonies had been attacked. 7 were completely destroyed. Thousands of people were dead or missing. The Defiance floated in space near Proxima Centauri, part of a fleet of 30 human ships. Captain Stone looked tired as he studied the battle map on the bridge. Red dots showed Vorn ships. Blue dots showed human ships. There were many more red dots than blue. They're coming, said Bob from the sensor station. 5 Vorn ships approaching from the east quadrant. Stone nodded. Alert all ships. Battle positions. The human fleet formed a defensive line in front of the colony. The Defiance took position in the center. On the view screen, the spider-like Vorn ships appeared, their dark hulls seeming to swallow the starlight. All weapons ready, the tactical officer reported. But sir, based on previous battles, Stone finished the thought. I know. Our weapons don't do much damage to them. He took a deep breath. But we have to try. The colony has 20,000 people on it. The Vorn ships fired first. Purple beams cut through space toward the human fleet. 2 smaller ships exploded immediately. The Defiance took a direct hit, but its shields held, though they dropped to 30% power. Return fire, Stone ordered. The human fleet fired everything they had. Missiles, energy beams, and projectile weapons all targeted the Vorn ships. Most bounced off or did minor damage. We hit their lead ship multiple times, Bob reported. But their shields are still at 85%. Another wave of purple beams shot out from the Vorn ships. 3 more human vessels exploded. The Defiance shook as it was hit again. Shields at 15%, the tactical officer shouted. Stone gripped his chair. Continue firing, target their weapon points. The battle raged for 20 minutes. One by one, human ships were destroyed. By the time it was over, only 7 human ships remained, including the Defiance. They had managed to damage 1 Vorn ship, badly enough that it retreated. The others continued toward the colony. Captain, Linda called from communications. Admiral James is ordering all remaining ships to evacuate as many colonists as possible and retreat. Stone's face hardened. We can't save everyone. No, sir, Linda said quietly. We can't. The Defiance and the other surviving ships raced to the colony. They loaded as many people as they could fit into cargo holds, corridors, and every available space. As the last ships lifted off, the Vorn began bombarding the colony from orbit. Stone watched on the view screen as buildings collapsed and fires spread across the once beautiful colony. The Defiance shook as debris hit their hull. Get us out of here, he ordered, his voice heavy. Maximum speed to Earth. In the engine room of the Defiance, engineer Lisa West worked through the night. The ship had taken heavy damage but was still flying better than it should be. This wasn't the first time. The Defiance had survived 3 major battles now when similar ships had been destroyed. Lisa examined a piece of the hull that had been hit directly by a Vorn weapon. There was damage, but not as much as there should have been. She ran tests on the metal, comparing it to the standard hull specifications. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered to herself. The door to the engine room opened and Captain Stone walked in. He looked exhausted. "How bad is it?" he asked. Lisa stood up straight. "That's just it, sir. It's not as bad as it should be. We took direct hits that would have cut through other ships like butter." Stone looked confused. "Are you saying we got lucky?" "No, sir. I'm saying there's something different about our ship." She pointed to her computer screen. "Look at these test results. Our hull has something in it that's not in the standard specifications. Some kind of metal alloy I've never seen before." Stone studied the screen. "Could this be why we've survived when other ships haven't?" "I think so, sir. Somehow this alloy seems to disperse the Vorn weapons better than standard hulls. It doesn't make us invincible, but it gives us a chance." For the first time in days, Stone felt a small spark of hope. "Can we replicate it? I need to do more tests, but if we can figure out what this is, maybe." The trip back to Earth took 5 days. During that time, Lisa worked non-stop testing the hull material. By the time they reached Earth orbit, she had a theory. In the briefing room at Earth Command headquarters, Stone and Lisa presented their findings to Admiral Wilson and the other fleet commanders. "We believe the Defiance was accidentally built with about 8% of an experimental alloy," Lisa explained. "According to the shipyard records, it wasn't supposed to be used in actual construction. It was just being tested." "A mistake?" Admiral Wilson asked. "A lucky mistake," Stone said. "This alloy seems to disperse the Vorn energy weapons better than our standard hull material." "We've run simulations," Lisa continued. "If we could refit the Defiance with more of this alloy, especially around critical systems, it might be able to take 3 or 4 direct hits before failing." The room was silent for a moment as everyone considered this information. "How quickly could we refit the Defiance?" Admiral Wilson finally asked. 2 weeks, Lisa answered. "Maybe less if we rush it." "And other ships?" Lisa shook her head. "Much longer. We'd need to manufacture more of the alloy first, and there's a risk this material wasn't fully tested. It might have structural weaknesses we don't know about yet." Admiral Wilson stood up. "Captain Stone, while your ship is being refitted, I want you and your tactical officer to develop new combat strategies. If this alloy works, we need tactics to take advantage of it." Stone nodded. "Yes, sir." "Engineer West, you'll lead the refit project. Work with Chief Engineer Turner at the main shipyard." "We're getting reports that the Vorn are moving toward New Hope Colony," another officer announced. "It's our largest colony after Proxima Centauri. If it falls, then we need to move fast," Admiral Wilson said. "Because right now the Defiance might be our best hope." As they left the meeting, Stone caught up with Lisa in the hallway. "Can this really work?" he asked quietly. Lisa looked at him seriously. "I don't know, sir. But what I do know is that the Defiance has survived when it shouldn't have, 3 times now. I don't believe in magic or miracles. So there has to be a scientific explanation." Stone nodded. "Then let's find it, because we're going to need more than luck to win this war." 2 weeks later, the refitted Defiance left Earth orbit heading for New Hope Colony. The defensive line there was already engaging Vorn ships. Reports said they were losing badly. As the Defiance jumped to faster than light speed, the crew was tense but determined. They were about to find out if their ship's unique properties were enough to change the course of a war that humanity was losing. The Defiance came out of faster-than-light travel near New Hope Colony. The view screen showed a battle already in progress. 4 human ships fought against 3 Vorn vessels. Even as they watched, one of the human ships exploded. "Battle stations," Captain Stone ordered. "Weapons ready. Let's see what our new hull can do." The Defiance moved forward quickly, targeting the nearest Vorn ship. They fired all weapons at once. The Vorn ship turned, surprised by the new arrival. "They're firing," Bob shouted from his station. The purple beam hit the Defiance directly. The ship shook, but not as badly as before. "Shield status?" Stone asked. "Shields at 65%, the tactical officer replied, sounding surprised. "That same hit would have dropped us to nearly zero before the refit." Stone smiled for the first time in weeks. "Fire again. All weapons." The Defiance continued its attack, drawing fire from the Vorn ships. After taking 3 more direct hits, their shields were still at 40%. "It's working," Lisa said from her engineering station. "The new hull is dispersing their energy weapon effects." The battle lasted for 2 hours. By the end, the Defiance had taken damage, but was still fighting. With the help of the remaining human ships, they destroyed 1 Vorn vessel and forced the others to retreat. As the crew assessed the damage, Admiral Wilson called from Earth Command. "Captain Stone, your report says the Defiance took 5 direct hits and is still operational?" "Yes, sir," Stone replied. "The hull modifications worked better than we hoped. We're damaged but still fighting." "This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for," the Admiral said. "I'm sending Chief Engineer Turner to New Hope with more of the experimental alloy. We need to understand exactly why it works and how to make more of it quickly." 3 days later, the Defiance docked at New Hope's orbital station. Chief Engineer Mike Turner arrived on a fast transport with equipment and materials. In the ship's main engineering lab, Lisa and Mike studied pieces of the hull that had been hit by Vorn weapons. "Amazing," Mike said, examining a metal sample under a scanner. "The alloy doesn't just resist the energy, it actually absorbs and redistributes it." Lisa nodded. "That's why we can take hits that would destroy other ships. But there's something else?" She pointed to another screen showing the ship's design. The way the Defiance was built, with this alloy scattered throughout the hull instead of in one area, actually created a kind of network that spreads out the energy. "A happy accident," Mike said. "If we had planned to put this alloy in, we probably would have concentrated it in specific areas." "Which wouldn't work nearly as well," Lisa finished. "Sometimes mistakes lead to discoveries." While the engineers worked, Captain Stone met with his tactical officer Dave Miller in the battle simulation room. They studied recordings of Vorn ships in combat. "Look at how they move," Stone said, pointing to the screen. "They're powerful but not very agile. They turn slowly, especially after firing their main weapons." Dave nodded. "You're right. They seem to need a few seconds to recharge. During that time, they're less maneuverable. Our ships are smaller and faster. If we can take a hit or two, without being destroyed, we could use that time to get in close and hit them where they're weakest." Dave finished. Stone smiled. "Exactly." A week later, Admiral Wilson arrived at New Hope to see the progress firsthand. In the colony's main conference room, the team presented their findings. Lisa and Mike explained the properties of the experimental alloy. "We call it dispersal metal now," Mike said. "We've figured out how to manufacture more of it, but it will take time. We recommend starting with partial refits of our remaining ships, focusing on protecting vital systems." Captain Stone and Dave presented their new battle tactics. "The Vorn expect us to stay at a distance and trade fire until we're destroyed," Stone explained. "Their ships are designed for long-range combat, but with hulls that can withstand a few direct hits, we can change our approach." Dave showed a simulation on the screen. "Instead of forming a line, our ships would attack in groups of 3 from different angles. While the Vorn are firing at one ship, the others close in to attack at short range." "Will this work?" Admiral Wilson asked. "There are no guarantees in war," Stone replied. "But right now, doing what we've been doing means certain defeat. We need to try something different." After the meeting, the Admiral authorized full production of the dispersal metal and approved Stone's new tactics. The Defiance would be the test ship for both the hull modifications and the new combat approach. 2 weeks later, sensors detected a large Vorn fleet heading toward New Hope. This was not a small attack force. It was a full invasion fleet of 15 ships. The human defenders had 8 ships, including the Defiance. 3 had been partially refitted with the new alloy. The others were standard vessels. They would be outgunned and outnumbered. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Stone addressed his crew. Today we find out if our discoveries can make a difference, he said. We're facing long odds, but remember, 3 months ago, one Vorn ship could destroy 10 of ours without much effort. Now we know our ship can take their hits and keep fighting. He looked around at the determined faces of his crew. The Defiance isn't just a name. It's what humanity does when backed into a corner. We defy the odds. We defy those who think they can wipe us out. And today, we're going to show the Vorn what humans can do when we have even half a chance to fight back. The crew cheered. Even knowing the danger ahead, they felt something they hadn't felt in months: hope. As the Vorn fleet appeared on long-range sensors, the human ships moved into their new formation. The Defiance took the lead position in the first attack group. All ships, this is Captain Stone, he said over the fleet communication channel. Remember your training. Stay with your groups, support each other. And remember, we only need to destroy 3 of their ships to make them reconsider this attack. Human fleet moved forward to meet the enemy. For the first time since the war began, they were not just trying to survive a little longer. They were fighting to win. The Defiance accelerated toward the Vorn fleet, its modified hull gleaming in the light of New Hope's sun. The ship that had survived when others didn't was about to show the Vorn that humans had found a way to fight back. The battle at New Hope Colony changed everything. The human fleet, using their new tactics and modified ships, destroyed 4 Vorn vessels while losing only 3 of their own. The rest of the Vorn ships retreated, something they had never done before when they had superior numbers. Word of the victory spread quickly through human space. For the first time since the war began, people had reason to hope. In the weeks that followed, engineer Lisa West led a program to refit as many human ships as possible with the dispersal metal. Captain Stone traveled between fleet bases, teaching other captains his tactics. But Lisa wasn't satisfied with just copying what worked on the Defiance. She wanted to find more ways to fight back. If this metal can help us survive their weapons, she told Captain Stone, maybe we can find other technologies to help us fight better. Stone agreed. The Defiance will be your test ship. Try anything you think might work. 1 month after the Battle of New Hope, the Defiance looked very different. Its hull was now completely covered with the dispersal metal. But there were other changes too. In the ship's cargo bay, Lisa showed Captain Stone her latest modification. This used to be a mining laser, she explained, pointing to a large device mounted on a platform. We've modified it to work as a weapon. Stone looked confused. Mining equipment? Will it be effective against Vorn shields? That's the interesting part, Lisa said. Mining lasers are designed to cut through dense rock and metal. They work on different principles than our military weapons. We think the Vorn might not be prepared for this type of attack. What else have you come up with? Stone asked. Lisa led him around the ship, showing various modifications. Industrial cutting tools mounted as close-range weapons. Tractor beams from cargo ships modified to disrupt Vorn shields. Even civilian communication arrays repurposed to create signal interference. We're not just trying to match their weapons technology, Lisa explained. We're changing how we think about our ships. Instead of just weapon platforms, we're turning them into multi-purpose tools. Stone nodded in approval. The Vorn seem rigid in their approach. They have powerful weapons, but they always use them the same way. We need to be unpredictable. 2 weeks later, human scouts reported a large Vorn fleet gathering near the Sirius star system. It was their biggest force yet, 20 ships, including some new, larger vessels. Earth Command decided to make a stand at Sirius. If this system fell, the Vorn would have a clear path to several major human worlds, including Earth itself. The human fleet had grown too. They now had 25 ships, 12 of which had been at least partially refitted with dispersal metal. All carried some of the new modified equipment that Lisa and other engineers had developed. The Defiance, now famous throughout the fleet, led the central battle group. Captain Stone addressed all ship commanders before the battle. The Vorn expect us to fight like we did before, to stand in a line and exchange fire until we're destroyed. They don't understand that humans don't give up. We adapt. We find new ways to fight. Today we show them that no matter what weapons they bring, our ships are enough to beat them. When the Vorn fleet arrived at Sirius, they found the human ships arranged in a formation they hadn't seen before. Instead of a defensive line, the human vessels were in small groups, spread out across a wide area. The battle began with the Vorn firing their powerful energy weapons. Some human ships took hits, but instead of exploding, they kept fighting. The ships with dispersal metal hulls absorbed much of the energy, just as the Defiance had done. Then the human fleet put their new plan into action. While some ships engaged the Vorn at a distance, others used their engines at full power to circle around behind the enemy. On the bridge of the Defiance, Stone gave the order to activate their secret weapon. Fire the mining lasers. The repurposed mining equipment shot out intense beams of energy, different from standard weapons. When they hit the nearest Vorn ship, something unexpected happened. The beams didn't bounce off their shields. Instead, they cut through, drilling into the ships. "Oh, it's working," Bob shouted from the sensor station. "Their shields aren't designed to stop this type of energy." Throughout the human fleet, ships began using their modified industrial equipment, cutting beams, tractor pulses, and other non-standard. Attacks hit the Vorn ships from multiple angles. The Vorn tried to adjust, turning to face the new threats. But their large ships moved slowly, and the human vessels darted around them, attacking from new directions before the Vorn could respond. 3 hours into the battle, the humans had destroyed 5 Vorn ships while losing only 4 of their own. It was an even exchange, something that would have been unthinkable just 2 months earlier. The Vorn commanders, facing unexpected resistance, made a decision. Their remaining ships pulled back and jumped away from the system. The human fleet had held the line at Sirius. After the battle, technicians recovered pieces of a damaged Vorn ship. Among them was a communication device that still worked. Linda, the communications officer, spent days trying to decode it. "Captain, I've got something," she finally said, calling Stone to her station. "I've managed to translate some of their messages during the battle." She played the recording. The translated voice sounded confused and angry. "Human ships surviving direct hits? Impossible. Weapons we've never seen. They're using industrial equipment as weapons. Their tactics make no sense." Stone smiled. "They don't understand us. They thought they knew what we could do, but they didn't count on human creativity." "There's more," Linda said. "Messages sent after the battle to their high command. They're confused. They don't understand how we adapted so quickly. One commander even questions whether they should continue attacking human worlds." "They're reconsidering," Stone said. "Good. Maybe now they'll think twice before attacking another colony." Admiral Wilson contacted the Defiance later that day. "Congratulations, Captain. The victory at Sirius has given us breathing room, but our work isn't done. The Vorn are still out there, and they'll be back." "We'll be ready," Stone replied. "We're refitting more ships every day, and Engineer West has more ideas for modifications." "That's what I wanted to talk to you about," the Admiral said. "I'm authorizing a special mission. We've located a major Vorn staging area. They have a large fleet gathering there, including supply ships. I want the Defiance to lead an attack force." Stone was surprised. "An attack? Not just defense?" "It's time we took the fight to them," Admiral Wilson said. "Show them that humans aren't just good at surviving. We can hit back too." As the communication ended, Stone looked around his bridge. His crew had been through so much, but they had never backed down. Now they were being asked to lead an attack on enemy territory. "What do you think?" he asked them. "Are we ready to take the fight to the Vorn?" The crew's response was immediate and unanimous. They were ready. The Defiance had started as just one ship trying to survive. Now it was leading humanity's counterattack. The ship that shouldn't have survived was about to show the Vorn that humans were far more dangerous than they had imagined. 6 months had passed since the first Vorn attack. The human fleet looked very different now. Most ships had been modified with dispersal metal and carried an odd mix of weapons. Military, industrial, and even civilian technology repurposed for war. The Defiance, once just another destroyer, was now the flagship of humanity's counterattack force. Its hull was completely covered with dispersal metal, giving it a distinctive blue-gray color. Attached to its frame were mining lasers, tractor beam projectors, and other devices that no military designer would have ever planned to put on a warship. Captain Stone gathered his officers in the briefing room. A holographic map showed their target, a Vorn staging area in a star system 20 light-years from human space. This is where they're gathering their invasion fleet, Stone explained. Intelligence says they have at least 30 ships there, including their largest command vessels. 30 ships? Asked Dave, the tactical officer. We only have 15 in our attack force. Yes, Stone nodded. But we have something they don't: unpredictability. They still think in traditional military terms. We don't anymore. Lisa, now the fleet's chief engineer, pointed to different areas on the map. Their supply ships will be here and here. They're lightly defended because the Vorn never expected us to attack them. If we can destroy those, their main fleet will be stranded without fuel and ammunition. This is a hit-and-run mission, Stone continued. We go in fast, hit their supply lines, and get out. We're not trying to defeat their entire fleet yet. What about their patrol ships? Bob asked. That's where the Defiance comes in, Stone said with a small smile. We'll lead the first attack group to draw their attention. While they're focused on us, the second and third groups will hit the supply ships. It was a risky plan. The Defiance would face the heaviest fire, but if it worked, it could change the course of the war. 3 days later, the human attack fleet waited at the edge of the Vorn staging area. Final checks were being made on all ships. New weapons were tested one last time. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Stone looked at his crew. They had been through so much together: retreats, losses, and finally some victories. Now they were about to do something no human fleet had done before: take the offensive against the Vorn. All ships report ready, Captain, Linda said from communications. Stone nodded. Send the message to all ships. Remember New Hope. Remember all the colonies we couldn't save. Today we show the Vorn that humans fight back. The attack fleet moved forward, accelerating to attack speed. They had one advantage: the Vorn weren't expecting them. Their sensors would only detect the human ships minutes before they arrived. Vorn. Patrol ships detecting us, Bob reported from sensors. They're moving to intercept. All according to plan, Stone said calmly. Attack Group 1, follow the Defiance. Groups 2 and 3, prepare to break off on my signal. The Defiance and 4 other ships accelerated toward the center of the Vorn formation. The Vorn patrol ships, 8 in total, moved to meet them head-on. They're powering up weapons, Dave reported. Brace for impact, Stone ordered. Remember, we need to draw their attention. Make them think we're going for their command ships. The Vorn fired first, purple beams cutting through space. The Defiance took 2 direct hits but kept going, its modified hull absorbing much of the energy. Return fire, all weapons, Stone ordered. The Defiance fired everything it had: standard weapons, mining lasers, and modified industrial equipment. 2 other human ships followed suit, creating a storm of different energy types and projectiles that confused the Vorn sensors. Groups 2 and 3, break off now, Stone commanded. While the Defiance and its group engaged the patrol ships, the other 10 human vessels split off, racing toward the supply areas at maximum speed. The battle grew intense. The Defiance took more hits, its shields dropping to dangerous levels. One of the accompanying human ships was badly damaged, but they had achieved their goal. All Vorn patrol ships were focused on them. Sir, Bob called out. Groups 2 and 3 report they've reached the supply ships. They're beginning their attack. Stone allowed himself a smile. Keep the patrol ships busy. We need to give them time. The Defiance executed a series of tight maneuvers that would have been considered suicidal in normal combat. It flew directly between 2 Vorn ships, firing all weapons in different directions. The Vorn, unused to such tactics, couldn't adjust quickly enough. Their own weapons fire nearly hit each other as the human ship passed between them. Supply ships under attack, Linda reported, listening to fleet communications. First target destroyed, second one heavily damaged. The Vorn commanders finally realized what was happening. They ordered some patrol ships to break off and protect the supply areas, but it was too late. All supply ships destroyed or disabled, Linda announced, her voice excited. Groups 2 and 3 are beginning their retreat. That's our cue, Stone said. All ships in Attack Group 1, disengage and retreat at maximum speed. The Defiance turned sharply, its engines at full power. The other ships in its group followed. The Vorn patrol ships pursued, but they were slower and couldn't catch the agile human vessels. As they reached safe distance for faster-than-light travel, Stone took one last look at the tactical display. The Vorn staging area was in chaos. Without their supply ships, their invasion fleet was stranded. It would take them months to replace what had been destroyed in just 30 minutes. 2 weeks later at Earth Command headquarters, Admiral Wilson addressed the fleet captains. The attack on the Vorn staging area was more successful than we could have hoped, she said. Not only did we destroy their supplies, but we've received word through our intelligence channels that the Vorn High Command is questioning their entire strategy against Earth. Stone, sitting among the other captains, felt a surge of pride. The Defiance had led the way, but every ship and crew member had played a part in the victory. Admiral Wilson continued. Most surprising of all, we've received a transmission from the Vorn central government. They're requesting peace talks. A murmur ran through the room. Peace talks? After months of relentless attacks, the Vorn wanted to talk? We don't know if they're sincere, the Admiral cautioned. But the fact that they're willing to talk at all is significant. They've never negotiated with any species they've encountered before. After the meeting, Admiral Wilson asked Captain Stone to stay behind. The Defiance will transport our diplomatic team to the peace talks, she told him. The Vorn specifically requested your ship. My ship? Stone was surprised. Why? Apparently, you made quite an impression. Their message mentioned the blue-gray ship that could not be destroyed. They've never encountered a species that adapted so quickly to their weapons. Stone thought about everything his ship and crew had been through. We didn't win because we had better weapons, we won because we refused to give up, and because we were willing to try things the Vorn would never consider. Exactly, the Admiral smiled. And that's the message we want to send at these peace talks. Humans will use whatever we have, our ships, our tools, our minds, to survive and protect our worlds. 1 week later, the Defiance left Earth orbit with the diplomatic team aboard. As the blue-gray ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, Captain Stone stood on the bridge, looking at the stars streaking by on the view screen. The ship that had survived, when others didn't, that had led the first successful counterattack, was now carrying humanity's hopes for peace. Whatever happened next, the Defiance had proven that humans could face any challenge and find a way to overcome it. As one of his crew had said during the darkest days of the war, it's not the weapons that win wars, it's the people using them. The Vorn had learned that lesson the hard way, and if peace failed, well, the Defiance would be ready to fight again. Because no matter what weapons their enemies brought to battle, humans had proven that their ships and their determination were enough to win. Commander Trell stared at the flashing red lights on the main control panel. The warning sounds filled the bridge of the massive ship. 17 ships of the Novan exploration fleet now floated helplessly in the empty space. All ships had lost power to their main engines at the same time. Report, Trell said, trying to keep a calm voice. The commander's blue skin seemed to darken with worry. Officer Mika rushed to Trell's side, holding a data pad. Bad news, Commander. The quantum drives on all ships are failing. We can't make jumps anymore. We're stuck here. Trell looked out the large window at the star field around them. They had traveled far beyond the known routes. No Novan ship had ever come this far into uncharted space. How much power do we have left? Trell asked. Life support systems are working on backup power. We have food and air for about 3 months, Mika answered. After that, the science officer didn't finish the sentence. There was no need. 4,000 crew members spread across 17 ships were now facing a slow death in the cold emptiness of space. The Novan fleet had been mapping new star systems when they entered a strange area of space that somehow damaged all their quantum drives at once. Trell walked to the center of the bridge. Call all ship captains to a meeting and prepare our long-range signal device. We need to send out a distress call. One of the bridge crew looked up with sad eyes. Commander, there's no one to hear us. The nearest Novan outpost is 2 years away at normal speed. Without our quantum drives, we can't get there. I know, Trell said, but we still have to try. In a small, dim room filled with humming machines, Lieutenant Jack Rivera sat with his feet up on his desk. Working the night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station Epsilon was usually boring. Most nights, Jack just watched the automatic systems do their job detecting signals from space. He sipped his coffee and looked at the screen showing different parts of space. Earth had only started putting these monitoring stations in far parts of the solar system in the last 10 years. Humans were still new to deep space travel compared to the handful of alien races they had met. Suddenly, one of his screens lit up with an alert. Jack put down his coffee and sat up straight. The computer had found something unusual, a signal pattern it couldn't identify. "That's weird," Jack muttered. He tapped some keys to get more information. The signal was coming from a region of space where no human ships were traveling. It wasn't a known pattern from any of the 3 alien species humans had met before. Jack looked at the signal pattern more carefully. There was something about it, a repeating pattern that reminded him of distress calls. After studying it for a few minutes, he was sure. "This is a cry for help," he said to himself. Jack reached for the communication button. "This is Lieutenant Rivera at Station Epsilon. I need to speak to Dr. Bell immediately. We've picked up what looks like a distress signal from an unknown source." Dr. Amara Bell had been sleeping when the call came. Now she stood in the station's main control room looking at the signal data Jack had found. "You were right to call me," she said. "This is definitely a distress signal, and it's not from any species we know." "What do we do?" Jack asked. Dr. Bell thought for a moment. "We need to tell Earth Command right away. This could be first contact with a new alien species." Within hours, the signal had been sent to Earth. The highest-ranking officials in the Unified Space Command gathered in an emergency meeting in Geneva. Admiral Huang, the head of all Earth space operations, stood before the assembled leaders. His face was serious as he explained the situation. "The signal comes from a location about 3 weeks away at our fastest speed. Our best analysis suggests it's from a group of ships in distress. We don't know who they are or what kind of help they need, but they're definitely calling for help." A woman in a gray suit spoke up. "Admiral, we should be careful. This could be a trap. We know very little about what's out there." The Admiral nodded. "That's true, Director Chen, but consider this. If we ignore a genuine cry for help, what does that say about us? About humanity?" The room grew quiet as everyone thought about this question. "We have a chance here," the Admiral continued. "A chance to show who we are as a species. Yes, there's risk, but I believe the greater risk is turning our backs on someone who needs our help, whoever they are." One by one, the leaders voted. The decision was made. Earth would respond to the distress call. Back on the Novan command ship, the mood had grown dark. 2 weeks had passed since they sent out their distress signal. No one really expected an answer. Trell sat alone in the commander's quarters, looking at pictures of family members who were waiting back home. The thought of never seeing them again was hard to accept. A sudden knock on the door interrupted these sad thoughts. "Come in," Trell called. Officer Mika rushed in, breathing hard. "Commander, you need to come to the bridge right now." "What is it?" Trell asked, standing up quickly. Mika's face showed excitement. "We're getting a response to our distress signal." Trell followed Mika to the bridge at a run. The main screen showed a signal pattern they had never seen before. "Where is it coming from?" Trell asked. The communications officer pointed to a star map. "From this direction, Commander. And it's getting stronger. Whatever sent it is coming toward us." "Can we translate it?" Trell asked. "We're trying," the officer said. "It doesn't match any language in our database." Hours passed as the Novan computers worked to decode the strange message. Finally, the translation system began to make sense of it. "This is Captain Morgan Reed of the Earth vessel Horizon. We have received your distress signal and are coming to offer assistance. Please respond if you can hear this message." The bridge crew looked at each other in shock. "Earth? What is Earth?" one of them asked. Trell moved closer to the screen. "It seems we're about to find out." On the bridge of the Horizon, Captain Morgan Reed waited anxiously for a response. Behind her ship, 5 more human vessels followed. They carried engineers, scientists, medical staff, and supplies, everything they could think of to help an unknown species in trouble. "Do you think they understood us?" asked her first officer, Alex. "I hope so," Morgan said. "We've been broadcasting, in every format we could think of." The communications officer suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, we're getting a response." The bridge crew fell silent as a strange voice came through the speakers. The words were oddly accented but understandable. "This is Commander Trell of the Novan Exploration Fleet. We are 17 vessels with 4,000 crew members. Our quantum drives have failed and we are stranded. We did not expect anyone to hear our call." Captain Reed smiled and pressed the response button. "Well, Commander Trell, today is your lucky day. Humanity is here to help." As the horizon moved closer to the massive alien ships ahead, neither the humans nor the Novans knew they were about to start a friendship that would change the future of both their worlds forever. Captain Morgan Reed stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the massive alien ships through the main view screen. The Novan vessels were huge compared to the human ships, each one at least 3 times larger than the horizon. Their hulls were smooth and silver, with strange blue lights running along their sides. "They're beautiful," whispered Alex, the first officer. Morgan nodded. "And in trouble. Let's prepare the shuttle for meeting. We need to follow first contact protocols." After talking with Commander Trell through simple messages, both sides had agreed to meet in the space between their fleets. The humans would send a small team on a shuttle, and the Novans would do the same. "Who's going?" Alex asked. "Me," Morgan said firmly. "And Alan Park from the first contact team. He's our best language specialist, and Dr. Lewis for medical assessment." Alex looked worried. "Captain, maybe you should stay on the ship. We don't know if—" Morgan cut him off with a raised hand. "This is too important. Our mission is peaceful, and I need to show them that by being there myself." An hour later, Morgan sat in the small shuttle as it moved away from the horizon. Through the window, she could see another shuttle leaving one of the Novan ships. Both small vessels moved slowly toward a point in empty space between the fleets. Alan Park sat beside her, looking excited. "This is history, Captain. The first meeting with a completely new alien species." Dr. Lewis was checking medical equipment. "I hope our biology isn't too different. It would be good to understand their basic needs." The shuttle reached the meeting point and stopped. The Novan shuttle was getting closer. Now they could see it clearly. It was shaped differently from human shuttles, more like a smooth water drop. "Nervous?" Alan asked. Morgan took a deep breath. "A little, but mostly curious." The Novan shuttle stopped about 30 meters away. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a door opened on the side of the alien vessel. The humans watched as 3 figures in strange suits floated out and used small jets on their backs to move toward the human shuttle. "They're coming to us," Dr. Lewis said. "That's a good sign." Morgan stood up. "Let's meet them properly." She moved to the airlock and pressed the button to open the outer door. Commander Trell looked at the human ship through the shuttle window. It was smaller than expected, but Trell could see it was well built. These humans might not have the advanced technology of the Novans, but they clearly knew how to build good ships. "Are you sure about this?" asked Mika, who had insisted on coming along. "We need their help," Trell answered simply. And they came a long way to offer it. The third member of their team, Medical Officer Wren, was checking the translation devices they would use. "The language program has been updated with what we've learned from their messages. It should work better now." When their shuttle stopped near the human vessel, Trell made a decision. "We'll go to them. It shows trust." The 3 Novans put on their spacesuits and moved through the vacuum toward the human shuttle. As they got closer, Trell could see figures watching from the windows. Then a door opened in the side of the shuttle. A human in a white spacesuit floated in the doorway and raised a hand in what seemed like a greeting. Trell copied the gesture. Morgan watched as the 3 aliens moved gracefully toward the shuttle. Their spacesuits were unlike human ones, thinner and more flexible. Through the clear helmets she could see their faces. They looked almost human, but with key differences. Their skin seemed to glow slightly blue and their eyes were larger with no visible whites. When the lead alien raised a hand in response to her greeting, Morgan felt a wave of relief. Some gestures, it seemed, might be universal. She spoke into her helmet mic. "Welcome. Please come inside. We have a small room where we can talk." The translation system in her helmet converted her words and sent them to the alien's suits. There was a pause. Then the lead alien nodded and moved forward. Once, all three aliens were inside and the airlock was closed. They removed their helmets. Morgan did the same, along with Alan and Dr. Lewis. Up close, the differences were more noticeable. The alien's skin had a slight shimmer to it, changing color slightly as they moved. They had no hair, and their ears were smaller than human ones. But they had 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, much like humans. "I am Captain Morgan Reed of the Earthship Horizon," Morgan said, touching her chest. The translation device on the table between them hummed, then spoke in a flat voice. The lead alien stepped forward. "I am Commander Trell of the Novan Exploration Fleet." Trell's voice sounded musical, with strange tones that the translation device couldn't fully capture. Trell introduced the others, Science Officer Mika and Medical Officer Ren. Morgan did the same with her team. "Please tell us what happened to your fleet," Morgan said once the introductions were done. Trell explained about the strange space anomaly that had damaged all their quantum drives. As Trell spoke, Mika showed 3D models on a small device, helping the humans understand the problem. Alan leaned forward, fascinated. "Your technology is far more advanced than ours. We don't have quantum drives yet." Trell looked surprised. "Then how did you reach us so quickly?" "We have fusion drives," Morgan explained. "They're slower than what you describe, but they got us here." Mika seemed confused. "But if your technology is less advanced, how do you think you can help us?" Alan smiled. "Sometimes a fresh perspective helps, and sometimes simpler technology can solve complex problems." The meeting lasted for 3 hours. By the end, both teams were speaking more freely, the translation devices working better as they learned more of each other's languages. Dr. Lewis and Ren had exchanged basic medical information, discovering surprising similarities in their biology. Despite their different appearances, both species needed oxygen, though the Novans could tolerate higher carbon dioxide levels. "We would like to bring a larger team to examine your ships," Morgan suggested. "Engineers who might be able to help with your drive problems." Trell seemed hesitant. "Your offer is generous, but I must be careful with my people's safety." Morgan nodded. "I understand completely. You don't know us yet. What if we start with just information exchange? We can share what we know and you can tell us more about your drives. Maybe together we can find a solution." Trell's skin shifted to a lighter blue, a reaction the humans didn't yet understand. "That seems reasonable." As they prepared to return to their ships, Trell stopped Morgan with a light touch on her arm. "There is something I don't understand," the Novan commander said. "Why did you come? We are strangers to you. Our civilizations have never met before." Morgan thought for a moment. "When we heard your call for help, we had a choice. We could ignore it or we could answer. That's not really a choice at all. If someone needs help and you can give it, you help. That's what makes us, well, human." Trell was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps that is what makes us people, whether human or Novan." For the first time since the meeting began, Morgan felt truly hopeful. Different as they were, there might be something fundamental that connected them after all. As the shuttle carried Morgan and her team back to the horizon, she stared out at the massive Novan fleet. This was just the beginning of what promised to be an extraordinary adventure. Within a week of first contact, more human ships arrived. The Earth government had sent everything they could: engineers, scientists, supplies, and raw materials. Captain Morgan Reed watched from the bridge of the horizon as the new ships approached the Novan fleet. 5 more ships, Alex said, standing beside her. "Command really sent everything we asked for." Morgan nodded. This is the biggest thing to happen to humanity since we discovered we weren't alone in the universe. Working with the Novans had been challenging but rewarding. After the first meeting, Commander Trell had allowed small human teams to visit the Novan ships. In return, Novan specialists had come to the human vessels to learn about Earth technology. "The shuttle is ready to take you to the command ship," Alex said. "The joint team is waiting." The large meeting room on the Novan command ship was filled, with both humans and Novans. The walls displayed technical diagrams and data screens. At the center of the room, a hologram showed the strange particles that had damaged the Novan quantum drives. Morgan entered the room alongside Commander Trell. They had spent much time together over the past week, building trust between their people. "Let's hear the latest update," Trell said, skin shifting to a formal green color that humans had learned meant serious business. Raj Patel, the lead human engineer, stood up. He was a small man with quick hands and a brilliant mind. "We've been studying the quantum drive components with the Novan engineers. Their technology is amazing, at least 40 years ahead of anything we have on Earth." Mika, the Novan science officer, joined him. "The human approach to problems is different from ours. They think in ways we do not." Raj smiled at this. "The Novans build perfect systems. Every part works in harmony with every other part. It's beautiful engineering. But when one thing goes wrong, everything fails," Mika finished. "Our systems are too connected. When the strange particles affected one part of the drive, the damage spread everywhere. And that's where our less advanced technology might actually help," Raj explained. "Human systems are more, well, messy. We build with backups and workarounds. We expect things to fail sometimes." Trell looked at Morgan. "Your engineer is saying that human technology is better because it is worse?" Morgan laughed. "Not exactly, just different. We've had to solve problems differently because we don't have your advanced materials and theory." Raj turned to the hologram display. "We think we can help shield your quantum drives from the strange particles using a special metal alloy we developed for our deep space probes. It's not as elegant as your technology, but it might work." "How long will it take?" Trell asked. "That's the hard part," Raj admitted. "We need to rebuild key components of all 17 ships, with both our teams working together, maybe 2 months." The room grew quiet. The Novans only had enough supplies for 3 months when they first sent their distress call. 1 month had already passed. "Then we have no time to waste," Trell said firmly. The work began immediately. Human engineers and Novan technicians worked side by side in the engine rooms of the massive alien ships. At first, communication was difficult. The translation devices helped with words, but technical concepts were harder to explain. Slowly, they began to understand each other better. The humans were amazed by the Novan technology, quantum computers that could process information faster than anything on Earth, materials that could change their properties on command, and energy systems that were incredibly efficient. The Novans were equally impressed by human creativity. Where Novan engineers might spend days looking for a perfect solution, humans would try quick fixes and improvise with whatever was available. "You adapt so quickly," Mika told Raj as they worked on a drive component. "Our education system teaches us to follow established patterns. Yours seems to encourage, what do you call it? Thinking outside the box," Raj said with a smile. "It's a human saying. It means looking for answers in unexpected places." As the days passed, more than technology was exchanged. The human crews organized shared meals with the Novans, introducing them to Earth foods and trying Novan dishes in return. Some foods were impossible for the other species to eat, but many were enjoyable to both. Music was shared too. Novan music used tones that human ears could barely hear, but the patterns were beautiful. Human music seemed primitive but emotionally powerful to the Novans. "Your music makes my skin change color without my control," one Novan told a human musician after hearing classical Earth music for the first time. Not everything went smoothly. A group of Novans remained suspicious of the humans and their motives. "Why would they help us for nothing in return?" asked Vin, a senior Novan officer, during a private meeting with Trell. No species does this. Perhaps humans are different, Trell suggested. Or perhaps they want our technology, Vin countered. They learn our systems while pretending to help. Trell's skin darkened with concern. I've spent time with Captain Reed. I believe their intentions are good. You are too trusting, Commander, Vin said. Similar concerns existed among some humans. Captain Reed overheard two engineers talking when they thought no one was listening. Should we really be helping them rebuild their ships? One asked. What if they turn against us once they're fixed? Or what if they share what they learn about us with other alien species? The other added. We could be putting Earth at risk, Morgan. Approach them. Those are fair concerns, she said, making them jump in surprise. But think about it this way. They already have far better technology than we do. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already. The engineers looked embarrassed. Sorry, Captain, it's just that they're different. Morgan finished for them. I know. But in the ways that matter, I think we're very similar. 2 weeks into the collaboration, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Tom Garcia was not a scientist or an engineer. He was a mechanic who worked on the Horizon's shuttle engines. He had volunteered to help with basic tasks on the Novan ships. While watching Novan engineers discuss a problem with the shield design, Tom had an idea. He sketched it quickly on his tablet and showed it to Raj. The Novans are trying to create a perfect shield, Tom explained. But what if we make an imperfect one on purpose? Something that can flex and adapt when those strange particles hit it. Raj studied the rough drawing. This might actually work. It's completely against Novan design philosophy, but that's exactly why they haven't thought of it. That evening, Raj presented Tom's idea to the joint team. The Novan engineers were confused at first. It went against everything they had been taught about proper design. It's intentionally flawed, one Novan engineer said, skin turning purple with confusion. Exactly, Raj agreed. It's meant to bend, not break. To absorb the particles rather than block them perfectly. Commander Trell looked at the design, then at the human mechanic who had created it. Will it work? Mika, who had been studying the plan, answered. It is strange, but the math supports it. I think it might. For the first time since the crisis began, real hope spread through the Novan fleet. The humans hadn't just brought help, they had brought a completely new way of solving problems. That night, as Morgan prepared to return to her ship, Trell stopped her. Your people continue to surprise us, the Novan commander said. This solution, it would never have occurred to any Novan. Morgan smiled. That's the value of different perspectives. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone. As she flew back to the horizon in the small shuttle, Morgan looked out at the stars. Two species from different worlds, working together to overcome a crisis. It was exactly what she had joined Earth's space fleet hoping to find. Not just new worlds, but new friends. The new shield design created by Tom Garcia changed everything. For 3 weeks, human and Novan teams worked day and night to build a prototype. The work was difficult, combining two very different types of technology, but everyone understood what was at stake. Morgan watched from an observation room as the final tests began on the first repaired drive. Raj and Mika stood in the engine room below, surrounded by both human and Novan engineers. The tension in the air was almost visible. Start the power-up sequence, Raj said into his communicator. Inside the massive engine room, lights began to flicker on. The quantum drive core, a beautiful blue sphere suspended in the center of the room, started to glow softly. Power at 10%, reported a Novan technician. All readings normal. Mika's skin rippled with nervous yellow patterns. Increased to 20%. The blue sphere grew brighter. The human-designed shield around it, an ugly, bulky ring of special metals, seemed to pulse slightly. 30%, Raj called out. How are the shield readings? A human engineer checked her tablet. Shield is holding. No sign of particle damage. The power levels continued to climb. 50%, 70%. At each stage, the team checked readings and looked for signs of the strange particles that had caused the original failure. 90%, Mika announced, voice tight with tension. Morgan held her breath. This was the moment of truth. If the shield could protect the drive at full power, they had a real solution. Full power, Raj ordered. The quantum drive core blazed with brilliant blue light. The shield around it glowed red at points where particles struck it, but it held strong. For 10 seconds, everyone was silent, watching the readings. Then, 20 seconds. At 30 seconds, Raj looked up at the observation window and gave a thumbs-up sign. "It's working," he shouted, his voice filled with excitement. The room erupted in cheers. Humans high-fived each other while Novans touched palms in their own celebration gesture. Morgan saw Mika's skin turn a bright, happy orange, a color she had never seen on any Novan before. The success of the prototype meant that their plan could work. But they still faced an enormous task. 17 massive ships needed their quantum drives rebuilt with the new shield design. Each ship had multiple drives, and each drive needed the special human-made shield. Commander Trell called a meeting of all ship captains and project leaders. "We have a working solution," Trell announced, "but we need to work faster. At our current pace, it will take 4 months to repair all ships. And we have less than 2 months of supplies left," added a Novan captain. Morgan stepped forward. "We've contacted Earth. More ships are coming with food and materials. But Commander Trell is right. We need to speed up the work." Raj had been thinking about this problem. What if we don't fix all the ships at once? What if we focus on getting one ship working first? Then it could take some of your people to the nearest safe location and come back for more. The Novans looked at each other. The idea of separating their fleet went against their protocols. "It's too risky," said Captain Vin, who still didn't fully trust the humans. "What if the drive fails again while the ship is far from help?" "We could send a human ship alongside it," Morgan suggested, "for backup." Trell considered this. The nearest safe location is a small trading outpost about 1 week's travel by quantum jump. If we repaired the smallest ship first, it could take 200 crew there and return. "With your permission," Raj said, "we could start work on that ship immediately. We already have enough shield material ready." Trell's skin shifted through several colors as the commander thought. "Very well, we will adapt to the situation." The next day, teams moved to the smallest Novan ship. The human engineers had gotten better at working with Novan technology, and the Novan technicians had learned to accept the strange human approaches. Tom Garcia, whose idea had made everything possible, worked alongside Vex, a young Novan engineer who had been the quickest to embrace human methods. "This connection here," Tom explained, showing a joint where human metal met Novan technology. "It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be strong enough to flex when those particles hit it." Vex nodded, understanding now. "Like a tree, branch in the wind, not like a stone wall that can break." "Exactly." Tom smiled. "You're getting it." Vex's skin turned a thoughtful blue. "On my world, we are taught that perfection is the highest goal. But watching you humans work, I wonder if adapting is more important than being perfect." Tom shrugged as he tightened a bolt. "Where I grew up, we had a saying, 'Perfect is the enemy of good enough.' Sometimes trying to make something perfect stops you from making something that works." Meanwhile, Morgan and Trell had another challenge. Food supplies were running low on the Novan ships. The humans had brought as much as they could, but not all of it was safe for Novans to eat. Diana Chen, the human medical officer, worked with Ren, her Novan counterpart, to test which Earth foods the Novans could digest. "This fruit should be safe," Diana said, showing a container of apples. "It has similar sugars to your food." Ren used a small device to scan the apple. "The skin might cause mild digestive discomfort, but the inside appears compatible." They found that many basic Earth foods, rice, certain vegetables, and some fruits, could help extend the Novan supplies. It wasn't ideal, but it would buy them more time. 2 weeks of intense work went by. The small Novan ship's drives were nearly ready. The human Novan teams had worked around the clock, with engineers often sleeping near their workstations. "Final power test today," Raj told Morgan as they ate a quick breakfast. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. If all goes well, the ship can make its first jump tomorrow. Morgan put a hand on his shoulder. You've done amazing work, Raj. All of you have. Later that day, the entire command team gathered on the bridge of the small Novan ship. Captain Vin would pilot the vessel on its test flight, with a mixed crew of Novans and humans. Begin final power sequence, Vin ordered. The ship hummed as the quantum drives powered up. On the main screen, they could see the status of each drive system. One by one, they turned green. All drives at full power, reported a Novan officer. Shield systems holding. Vin looked at Trell, who nodded approval. Take us out slowly. For the first time in nearly 2 months, a Novan ship moved under its own power. It glided away from the rest of the fleet, its engines glowing blue against the darkness of space. Prepare for short-range quantum jump, Vin said. Target is 5,000 kilometers ahead. Everyone held their breath. This was the real test. The ship had to do more than power up. It had to actually jump through space. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Vin pressed the control. The ship shimmered for a moment, then vanished. On the command ship's screen, it reappeared instantly at the target location. After a moment of stunned silence, cheers erupted across the fleet. Humans and Novans celebrated together, the barriers between their species seeming to fade away in that moment of triumph. The small ship returned at normal speed, moving back to its place in the fleet formation. When Captain Vin returned to the command ship, even the usually serious officer was smiling. The jump was perfect, Vin reported. Smoother than before, actually. The human shield seems to stabilize the quantum field. Commander Trell looked at Morgan. It seems our impossible problem had a solution after all. We just needed, outside-the-box thinking. Morgan smiled. Tomorrow, the ship can make its first long jump to the trading outpost. We'll have a human vessel follow, at fusion speed as backup. Trell's skin turned a warm purple color. Captain Reed, Morgan, I don't know if my people can ever repay yours for what you've done. Morgan shook her head. That's not how friendship works, Commander. You don't keep score. 3 months after the humans first arrived, the work was nearly complete. 12 of the 17 Novan ships now had working quantum drives with the special human shields. The smaller ships had been fixed first, making trips to the nearby trading outpost to bring back supplies and spread the word that the Novan fleet was safe. The morning of the final repair on the command ship, Morgan stood with Trell on the observation deck. Through the large window, they could see the stars and the human fleet nearby. When we leave here, Trell said quietly, everything will change. For both our peoples. Morgan nodded. I think it already has. The journey had not been easy. There had been technical problems, food shortages, and cultural misunderstandings. But they had overcome each challenge together. Now, as the work neared its end, both humans and Novans were thinking about what would come next. My government has sent a message, Morgan said. They want to establish formal relations with your people. Trade, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, everything. Trell's skin rippled with thoughtful blue patterns. Our High Council says the same. They were surprised by what happened here. Novans have met other species before, but never found such willing helpers. What will you tell them about us? Morgan asked. Trell turned to face her. The truth. That humans are strange, unpredictable, sometimes messy, and the best allies we could hope for. Later that day, the final tests began on the command ship's quantum drives. This was the largest ship in the fleet and the most complex to repair. Raj and his team had worked for 2 weeks on the massive engine room. Start power sequence, ordered Chief Engineer Lorne, the Novan in charge of the ship's engines. The enormous quantum core began to glow. Unlike the other ships, the command vessel had 5 cores, all of which needed to work together perfectly. Power at 20%, reported a human technician. Shield readings stable. Raj watched the readings carefully. They had modified the TACE shield design for the larger cores, making it more flexible. The design had been a true collaboration, Novan precision with human adaptability. 50% power, Lorne called. All systems nominal. Mika stood beside Raj, monitoring the data. The particle levels are higher here than on the other ships, she observed. The shield is working harder. It can handle it, Raj said with confidence. That's what it was designed to do. The power level continued to rise. 80%. 90. As they approached full power, Lorne looked at Raj. Your shield design has saved our fleet, the Novan engineer said. Our people will not forget this. It wasn't just my design, Raj corrected him. It was Tom's idea and your team's expertise. We did it together. Full power, announced a technician. The 5 quantum cores blazed with bright blue light. The shields around them glowed at points where the strange particles struck them, but they held firm. All systems at full capacity, Mika reported, her skin turning bright orange with joy. The command ship is ready. That evening, a celebration was held in the command ship's great hall. Humans and Novans gathered together, sharing food, drink, and stories. For many, this would be their last night together before the fleets parted. Ways. Captain Vin, who had once been so suspicious of the humans, now moved easily among them, even trying some Earth foods. Tom and Vex sat together, already making plans for future engineering collaborations. Commander Trell called for silence, then addressed the gathered crews. When we sent our distress call, we had little hope of rescue. Our fleet was far from home, in uncharted space. Then humanity answered. You came without knowing us, without any obligation to help. You shared your knowledge, your resources, and your friendship. Trell's skin turned a formal, deep purple. Today, I am honored to announce that the Novan High Council has approved the creation of a formal alliance with Earth. Our peoples will share knowledge, trade, and exploration. The humans have earned our trust and our gratitude. Morgan stepped forward when Trell gestured to her. On behalf of Earth, I accept this alliance with great hope for our future together. What began as a rescue mission has become something much more important, the beginning of a lasting friendship between our worlds. The hall erupted in cheers. For many of the crew members, the past 3 months had changed their view of the universe. They had learned that different species could work together, could trust each other, could become friends. Early the next morning, final preparations began for the fleets to depart. The Novan ships would return to their home territories while most of the human vessels would head back to Earth. But something had changed in the plans. Morgan found Trell on the bridge of the command ship. I've just received new orders from Earth Command, she said. The Horizon will accompany your fleet to the Novan border as a goodwill gesture, and they're sending an ambassador with us. Trell looked pleased. The High Council is sending representatives to meet us as well. They're eager to formalize our new alliance. There's more, Morgan added. Earth is offering scholarships for young Novans to study at our universities, and they're asking if Novan teachers would consider visiting Earth to share your knowledge. Our council has made a similar offer, Trell replied. They would welcome human students and teachers. As they spoke, the final loading operations were underway. Human and Novan crews exchanged small gifts, personal items to remember each other by. Many had formed close friendships during their time together. Diana, the human medical officer, gave Ren a collection of Earth medical texts. In return, the Novan doctor presented her with a small device that could analyze biological compounds, technology that would advance human medicine by years. Tom gave Vex his personal toolkit, simple mechanical tools that the Novan engineer had come to appreciate. Vex pressed a small crystal into Tom's hand in return. What is it? Tom asked, holding up the glowing blue crystal. A memory stone, Vex explained. It records experiences. This one holds our work together, so you will not forget. I could never forget this, Tom said with a smile. The time for departure finally came. The Novan fleet, with all ships now repaired and fully functional, prepared to make their first synchronized quantum jump in months. The Horizon and 2 other human ships would travel with them, while the rest of the human fleet returned to Earth. On the bridge of the command ship, Trell and Morgan stood side by side. Through the view screen, they could see the stars that had once seemed like a prison to the stranded fleet. Now those same stars offered a path home and a promise of new journeys together. "Ready for quantum jump," announced the Novan navigator. Trell looked at Morgan. "Are your ships prepared?" Morgan nodded. "The horizon is ready to follow you wherever you go." "All ships report ready, Commander," said the communications officer. Trell took a moment to look around the bridge. Humans worked alongside Novans at several stations, the beginning of the exchange program that would continue for years to come. "Begin jump sequence," Trell ordered. As the stars outside began to blur, Morgan thought about the journey they had made together. A distress call answered. Strangers becoming allies, allies becoming friends. What had started as a rescue had become much more, the beginning of a new chapter for both their peoples. No longer alone in the vastness of space, but moving forward, together into an uncertain but hopeful future. The ships vanished into quantum space, leaving behind only the memory of a fleet once stranded, and the humanity that had come to help. The alarm sounded at exactly 3:17 a.m. Earth time. Admiral James Walker jumped from his bed in the space station orbiting Earth. He had been in charge of Earth's defense fleet for 15 years, but this was the first time the deep space sensors had detected something this unusual. "Report," he ordered as he entered the control room, still adjusting his uniform. "Sir, we picked up an unknown object entering the solar system," said Officer Tom Miller, pointing at the main screen. "It's moving faster than anything we've ever seen." Walker leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the blinking dot that was now passing. Jupiter's orbit. For years, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Have they sent any signals?" Walker asked. "No, sir. Nothing we can detect." Walker took a deep breath. This moment would change human history forever. He had trained for this, though many had laughed at the idea of preparing for alien contact. "Activate Protocol First Light," he ordered. Around the world, military bases went on high alert. In underground bunkers, weapon systems that most people didn't know existed powered up. But Walker was not planning to shoot first. "Send the message," he said. Officer Miller nodded and pressed a button. The message they had prepared years ago began transmitting in all directions. It was simple, but clear. "This is Earth. We welcome peaceful contact with other intelligent life. We are a developing civilization that wishes no harm to others. However, we will defend ourselves if threatened. Please respond with your intentions." The message was sent in basic mathematical code that any advanced civilization should understand, along with simple pictures showing humans and Earth. "Now we wait," said Walker. Far beyond Neptune's orbit, the sleek ship of the Galactic Empire received Earth's message. Captain Dorn, a tall being with pale blue skin, listened as his communications officer played the transmission. "How interesting," Dorn said with a smile that showed his sharp teeth. "These humans think they can defend themselves." His second-in-command, Officer Rell, laughed. "They've barely left their own planet. Our scans show their technology is at least 3 centuries behind ours." Dorn nodded. "Send the data back to the High Council. This system is perfect for our needs. Good resources, habitable planet, and only a minor species to deal with." On the Imperial capital world, Emperor Vex sat on his throne as the High Council gathered to hear the report from Earth. The Emperor was old, even by his species standards, with dark gray skin and eyes that seemed to hold no light. "So," he said after reviewing the data, "another primitive world has discovered our presence." "They sent a warning, Your Majesty," said Council Member Tara, one of the few who usually spoke up against aggressive action. "Perhaps we should respect their space and move on. There are many uninhabited systems." Emperor Vex waved his hand dismissively. "A warning? From them? Their most advanced weapons couldn't even scratch our smallest ships." The Emperor stood, looking at the hologram of Earth floating in the center of the chamber. The Empire has stood for 10,000 years by following one simple rule. We take what we want. This Earth has resources we need for the Eastern expansion. Their warning means nothing. But Your Majesty, Terra tried again. Our scouts report unusual energy readings from some of their military installations. There might be more. Enough. Vex's voice echoed through the chamber. Council Member Terra, your constant caution grows tiresome. We will proceed as we always have. Standard colonization protocol will begin immediately. The other council members nodded in agreement. None wanted to question the Emperor after seeing his anger. Commander Trell, Vex called to his military leader, prepare the 7th Fleet. I want Earth secured within 1 standard month. As you command, Your Majesty. Trell bowed low. Back on the space station, 3 days had passed with no response to Earth's message. Walker had not left the control room, surviving on coffee and little sleep. Sir, called Miller. The object has changed course. It's heading back out of the system. Walker frowned. They didn't even respond to our message. Maybe they're peaceful. After all, Miller suggested hopefully. No, Walker shook his head. They scanned us thoroughly. They know we're here. They just didn't think we were worth talking to. Walker walked to the window, looking out at the blue-green planet below. 20 years ago, nations had still fought each other. Now, faced with the possibility of something beyond their world, humanity had finally started working together. Connect me to the World Security Council, Walker ordered. Minutes later, the faces of 12 world leaders appeared on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, Walker began, the alien vessel is leaving our system, but I believe this is just a scout. They didn't respond to our message, which suggests they don't see us as equals worthy of communication. What do you suggest, Admiral? Asked the President of the United Alliance. We need to speed up Project SHIELD. If they come back, they probably won't be friendly. That will cost trillions, said another leader. The cost of doing nothing could be everything, Walker replied. Simply, after hours of debate, the Council voted. Project SHIELD would receive all the funding and resources it needed. Earth would prepare for war while hoping for peace. 6 months passed. The deep space sensors remained quiet, though Walker ordered them extended even further into space. On Tapo, Earth factories worked day and night building ships and weapons based on new technologies that scientists had been developing in secret for years. Then, one ordinary Tuesday, the alarm sounded again. Multiple objects detected, sir, said Miller, his face pale. At least 30 ships much larger than the Scout. They're heading straight for Earth. Walker watched as the screen showed the Imperial fleet entering the solar system. This was what he had feared and prepared for. Send the message again, he ordered. One more chance for peace. The message went out, repeating Earth's warning. This time, there was a response, but not the one Walker had hoped for. A hologram appeared in the center of the control room. Commander Trell of the Empire stood tall and proud in his military uniform. People of Earth, he said, his voice cold. Your world is now part of the Galactic Empire. Your resources belong to us. Your people will serve us. Resistance is not advised, but will be met with immediate destruction. You have 6 hours to surrender control of your governments to our representatives. The message ended. Walker looked around the room at the shocked faces of his crew. They think we're helpless, he said quietly. They ignored our warning. He pressed a button on his console, sending a simple code to every military base on Earth and the hidden bases on the Moon and Mars. The Empire has made their choice, Walker said. Now they'll see that Earth's warning wasn't empty words. Launch all defense systems. The war has begun. Commander Trell watched Earth grow larger on the main screen of his flagship. The blue planet looked peaceful from space, completely unaware of the fate about to befall it. The Imperial fleet, 30 massive warships arranged in perfect formation, had entered Earth's orbit without any resistance. Pathetic, Trell said, turning to his officers. Not even a single defensive satellite in orbit. Captain Dorn, now serving directly under Trell after his successful scouting mission, nodded in agreement. Their technology is primitive, Commander. As I reported, they've barely managed space travel to their own moon. Begin standard invasion protocol, Trell ordered. Target their largest military installations first. Once their defenses are broken, we'll move to government centers. As the Imperial ships positioned themselves around the planet, a message came through on all frequencies. The face of Admiral Walker appeared on the screen. "This is Earth's final warning," Walker said, his voice calm but firm. "We have detected your weapon systems powering up. Any hostile action against our planet will be met with full defensive measures. We are willing to discuss peaceful contact, but we will not be conquered." Trell laughed along with his bridge crew. How adorable. They still think they have a choice. He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their largest military base in the continent they call Australia. Fire when ready." "Yes, Commander," the officer replied, inputting commands. The massive Imperial warship hummed as its main cannon charged. Seconds later, a beam of energy shot toward Earth, aimed at the joint military base near Darwin. On Earth, Admiral Walker stood in the Global Defense Command Center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around him, military leaders from every major nation watched as the Imperial ships took position. "They're targeting the Darwin base," reported General Maria Cruz, head of Pacific Defense. Walker nodded. "Just as we predicted. Activate Quantum Shield Alpha." Across the planet, hidden facilities powered up. For 20 years, Earth's best scientists had been secretly working on technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien ship found in Antarctica. The public had never been told about the crash or the technological leaps it had provided. As the Imperial energy beam approached Darwin, a shimmering blue dome appeared over the base. When the beam struck, instead of destruction, there was only a bright flash as the shield absorbed and dispersed the energy. On the Imperial flagship, Commander Trell stared in disbelief at the readout. "What happened?" he demanded. "Why is the base still there?" "Unknown, Commander," the weapons officer replied, checking his instruments. "The energy signature suggests some kind of deflection technology, but their development level shouldn't allow for—" "Fire again!" Trell shouted. Full power. 3 more Imperial ships joined the attack, all targeting the same location. Again, the shield held firm. In the Global Defense Command, Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Phase 1 complete. They've taken the bait. Now for Phase 2. He pressed a button on his console. "All orbital platforms, you are cleared to engage." Across Earth's orbit, what had appeared to be small communication satellites suddenly transformed. Hidden panels opened, revealing advanced weapon systems. There were hundreds of these platforms positioned so perfectly that the Imperial fleet hadn't recognized them as threats. The first volley caught the Empire completely by surprise. Concentrated energy beams sliced through the shields of 3 Imperial cruisers, cutting them in half. The explosions lit up Earth's orbit like new stars. "Impossible!" Dorn shouted as the deck beneath him shook. "Their weapons can't be this advanced." Trell gripped his command chair as warning alarms blared across the bridge. "Battle formation. Return fire on those platforms. Launch all fighters. The Fanchu." Imperial fleet scrambled to respond, but they were already at a disadvantage. The orbital platforms were smaller and more nimble than the massive Imperial ships, able to reposition quickly while maintaining fire. "Commander," Dorn said, his voice shaking, "we're receiving reports of more Earth vessels approaching from behind the moon." "What?" Trell turned to the tactical display. Sure enough, a fleet of Earth ships was emerging from hiding. They were smaller than the Imperial warships, but moved with surprising speed and coordination. On the lead Earth ship, Captain Lisa Chen sat calmly in the command chair. "All vessels engage as planned. Target their engines and weapon systems. Remember your training." The Earth fleet, hidden and built in secret lunar bases over the past decade, moved into perfect attack formation. These ships represented the Hayabusa, pinnacle of human engineering, enhanced by the alien technology they had studied. The battle in orbit quickly turned chaotic. Imperial ships, designed for overwhelming force against inferior opponents, found themselves fighting an enemy that had prepared specifically for them. Back in the command center, Walker received updates from around the world. "Sir, Imperial landing. Craft have been detected approaching major cities, reported General Cruz. Activate ground defense grids, Walker ordered, and get me a direct line to their command ship. As the battle raged in orbit, Walker's face appeared on the screen of the Imperial flagship once more. Commander Trell, Walker said, your attack has failed. You've already lost 5 ships and we've barely begun to fight. I'm offering you one chance to withdraw your forces and leave our system. Trell's face twisted with rage. This is impossible. You're nothing but primitives. How did you... We've been preparing for this day for 20 years, Walker replied calmly. The scout ship you sent wasn't the first alien vessel to reach Earth. We found one that crashed. We learned from it. We built our defenses knowing someday someone like you would come. Trell's eyes widened with understanding and fear. The Empire had always relied on technological superiority for its conquests. Without that advantage... Commander, Dorn interrupted urgently. 3 more cruisers have been destroyed. Our shields are failing across the fleet. Trell looked around, his bridge seeing the fear in his officer's eyes. This was supposed to be a simple conquest, not a real fight. His crew wasn't prepared for an enemy that could actually hurt them. All ships, he finally ordered, fall back to minimum safe distance, regroup at the edge of the system. As the surviving Imperial ships retreated from Earth orbit, leaving their destroyed comrades behind, Walker turned to the world leaders gathered in the command center. It's not over, he said soberly. They'll be back with a larger force once they report what happened. But we've shown them that Earth won't fall easily. He looked at the tactical display showing the retreating Imperial ships. The real war is just beginning. On the Imperial flagship, now limping away from Earth, Commander Trell composed his message to Emperor Vex. How could he explain this disaster? How could he tell the Emperor that the primitive humans had technology that rivaled their own? As the ship accelerated away from the blue planet, Trell looked back at the view screen one last time. Earth had sent a warning, and the Empire had ignored it. Now they would pay the price for their arrogance. The emergency meeting of the World Security Council began exactly 3 hours after the Imperial fleet retreated. In a massive underground chamber beneath Geneva, leaders from every nation on Earth gathered around a circular table. Their faces showed a mix of relief, fear, and determination. Admiral Walker stood at the center, next to a holographic display showing the battle in orbit. The remaining debris of Imperial ships still burned in Earth's atmosphere, creating spectacular light, shows visible from the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, Walker began, we've won the first battle, but this war has only just begun. Our intelligence suggests the Empire controls thousands of worlds across the galaxy. What we faced today was merely a small fraction of their military power. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had survived its first encounter with alien invaders, but at what cost? And how would they fare against a full-scale assault? Admiral, said President Chen of the United Alliance, what's your assessment of their likely response? Walker nodded to a woman sitting quietly at the edge of the room. I'll let Dr. Emma Reed answer that. She's been leading our defense research program for the past 15 years. Dr. Reed approached the center of the room. Though in her 60s, she moved with energy and purpose. Her eyes reflected the intelligence that had helped prepare Earth for this day. The Empire will not take this defeat lightly, she said, her voice steady. Based on the transmissions we intercepted, they are already gathering a much larger fleet. We estimate we have about 3 weeks before they return. Can we win against a larger force? Asked the Russian president. Dr. Reed activated a new display. Not with conventional tactics. The orbital platforms and shield technology gave us an advantage because they were unexpected. Next time, the Empire will be prepared for these defenses. Then what do you suggest? Asked President Chen. Dr. Reed looked at Walker, who nodded. It's time to reveal Project Achilles, she said. The holographic display changed to show a complex device unlike anything the world leaders had seen before. 20 years ago, Dr. Reed explained, when we recovered the crashed alien ship in Antarctica, we found more than just technology. We found their communication system. For 2 decades, we've been quietly listening to the Empire's transmissions, learning their language, their tactics, and, most importantly, the weaknesses in their network. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Project Achilles is a weapon designed to target not their ships but their command and control systems, Reed continued. It can disrupt their quantum communication network, rendering their coordinated attacks impossible. President Chen leaned forward. If you've had this technology for 20 years, why didn't we use it today? Because we only get one chance, Reed replied. Once we deploy it, they'll adapt. We needed to save it for when we face their full force. Walker took over the briefing. While Project Achilles will give us an advantage, it won't win the war alone. We need to take the fight to them. He pressed a button, and the display changed again, showing a hidden fleet of Earth ships much larger than what they had revealed earlier. These vessels have been built in secret asteroid bases throughout the solar system. They're equipped with our most advanced technology, including faster-than-light drive reverse-engineered from the crashed ship. The leaders stared in amazement. The secret fleet was at least 3 times the size of what they had used in the initial battle. How did you keep this hidden from the public? Asked the African Union representative. Walker smiled slightly. The same way we kept the crashed ship secret. Classified projects, compartmentalized information, and funding hidden in plain sight within regular defense budgets. Captain Roy Davis will lead our primary strike force, Walker continued, nodding to a tall man in uniform standing nearby. Davis stepped forward. He was younger than most of the other military leaders, only in his late 30s, but his reputation was legendary among those in the know. My team has been training for this mission for 5 years, Davis said. While the main fleet engages their forces, we'll infiltrate their command ship using stealth technology. Our goal is to extract their military database and plant the Achilles device at the heart of their communication network. The French president stood. This all sounds impressive, but we're talking about fighting an empire that spans thousands of worlds. Even with this technology, how can we possibly win? Dr. Reed answered, we don't need to defeat their entire empire. We just need to make conquering Earth too costly for them to continue. The empire has existed for millennia by easily overwhelming less advanced civilizations. They've never faced a serious challenge. We believe they've grown complacent. Meeting continued for hours as plans were made and resources allocated. When it finally ended, the world leaders left with a mix of hope and fear. Earth was about to take its first steps into a much larger conflict. 3 days later, Captain Davis stood in the hangar of Earth's secret lunar base, addressing the 50 men and women who would join him on the infiltration mission. You all know what's at stake, he said, looking at each member of his team. If we fail, Earth falls, it's that simple. But I've trained with each of you, and I know what you can do. The Empire thinks humans are weak. They think we're primitive. Today we prove them wrong. The team cheered as they boarded their ship, a sleek vessel designed for stealth. It was called the Shadow, and it lived up to its name. Its surface absorbed all light and radar, making it nearly invisible to sensors. As Davis took his seat in the command chair, he received a transmission from Admiral Walker. Captain, our deep space sensors have detected movement. The Imperial reinforcements are on their way, and they're coming sooner than we expected. You need to launch now. Davis acknowledged the order and signaled his pilot to begin launch procedures. All personnel, prepare for immediate departure, he announced over the ship's comm system. Our timetable has been moved up. The enemy is approaching faster than expected. As the Shadow lifted off from the lunar surface, Davis looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was the heart of an empire that had conquered countless worlds. They thought Earth would be just another easy victory. They were wrong. Back on Earth, Admiral Walker watched as the global defense systems came fully online. Shields extended over major cities, weapons platforms repositioned in orbit. The hidden fleet emerged from bases throughout the solar system, taking defensive positions. Dr. Reed joined him in the command center, carrying the final prototype of the Achilles device. The backup is ready, she said, placing it carefully on a secure table. If Davis fails to plant the primary device, we'll have to use this one here. Walker nodded grimly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. They both looked up at the main screen, which showed the approaching Imperial fleet. This time there were hundreds of ships, not just 30. Earth had sent its warning. The Empire had chosen war, Now humanity would fight for its very existence. Emperor Vex had never felt rage like this before. His wrinkled gray face turned almost black with anger as he watched the holographic recording of the battle at Earth for the third time. Commander Trell stood before him, head bowed, awaiting judgment. 5 cruisers destroyed, Vex hissed, his voice barely above a whisper. A third of your fleet disabled. By primitives. The Imperial throne room was silent except for the Emperor's voice. The 12 members of the High Council sat frozen in their seats, not daring to speak. Your Majesty, Trell began, his voice shaking. They had technology we didn't expect. Somehow they've advanced far beyond what our scouts reported. Excuses, Vex shouted, slamming his fist on the arm of his throne. The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. Never, never have we retreated from primitives who have barely left their own planet. Council member Terra finally found the courage to speak. Perhaps, Your Majesty, we should reconsider. If these humans have such technology... Silence. The Emperor roared. He pointed a long finger at Trell. You will return to Earth with the 1st and 2nd fleets. You will destroy their defenses. You will burn their cities. You will make an example of them that the entire galaxy will remember for 1,000 years. Trell bowed low. Yes, Your Majesty. As Trell left to prepare the massive invasion fleet, Terra exchanged worried glances with a few other council members. The Emperor's judgment was clouded by anger. This human planet had somehow developed technology that could challenge Imperial ships. The standard approach might not work this time. Far from the Imperial capital, Captain Davis's stealth ship exited, faster than light travel at the edge of the system. Before them floated a massive space station, the forward command post for the Imperial invasion force. Active camouflage engaged, reported Lieutenant Anna Brown, the Shadow's tactical officer. Their sensors show no sign of detecting us. Davis nodded. Begin approach pattern. Remember, we need to get close enough to tap into their network without being spotted. The Shadow glided silently through space, its surface absorbing all light and energy signals. To any observer, it would appear as nothing more than a slight distortion easily mistaken for a sensor glitch. As they approached the station, Davis checked his team one last time. 20 would remain with the ship, while he would lead 30 operators onto the station itself. Each wore advanced stealth suits that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Docking in 30 seconds, reported the pilot. Davis took a deep breath. Once we're in, we have exactly 45 minutes to reach the central data hub, download their military network information, and plant the Achilles device. After that, the shift change will make it impossible to remain undetected. The ship attached itself to an emergency airlock on the underside of the station. Using specialized tools, they bypassed the security systems and entered without triggering any alarms. Moving in perfect formation, Davis led his team through the maze of corridors. Years of studying Imperial ship designs from intercepted transmissions had prepared them for this mission. They knew exactly where to go and how to avoid the patrols. When they reached the central data hub, Davis signaled for his tech specialists to begin their work. Lieutenant Brown connected to the Imperial network and began downloading the military database. Sir, she whispered after a few minutes, I'm finding something interesting. There's significant communication from multiple worlds questioning the Emperor's decision to attack Earth. Davis looked over her shoulder at the data stream. It seems we're not the only ones who think this war is a mistake. The download is complete, Brown reported, and I've planted the Achilles device in their network core. It's set to activate, on your command. Davis nodded. Let's get out of here. As they made their way back to the ship, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. What happened? Davis demanded. Unknown, sir, Brown replied, checking her scanner. The alarm isn't related to us. Something else is happening. They quickened their pace, reaching the Shadow just as Imperial troops began running toward the bomb. Command Center. Once safely aboard, Davis ordered an immediate departure. As they pulled away from the station, they intercepted the emergency broadcast. All Imperial forces, this is a priority alert, came the message. Earth defense forces have been detected approaching the outer planets of the home system. Repeat, Human ships have bypassed our forward defenses and are approaching the Imperial capital. All available vessels are ordered to return for defense. Davis couldn't believe what he was hearing. Admiral Walker moved up the timetable. He's launched a direct assault on their homeworld. Back at Earth, Admiral Walker stood in the command center, watching as the remaining defense fleet engaged the approaching Imperial armada. The battle was intense, with losses on both sides, but the Earth ships were holding their own. Dr. Reed entered, her face grim. "We've lost contact with the lunar base. The Empire has landed troops there." Walker nodded. "As expected. They're trying to take out our secondary command center." He turned to her. "Is the Achilles protocol ready?" "Yes, but without confirmation that Davis has planted the primary device, we can't be sure of full effectiveness." Walker looked at the battle displays. Earth's defenses were strong, but the sheer number of Imperial ships was overwhelming. They couldn't hold out forever. "We've waited long enough," he decided. "Activate the protocol." Dr. Reed inserted a key into the console and entered a complex code. "Achilles protocol activated. Effect will begin in 3 minutes." Across the galaxy, on thousands of Imperial ships and bases, something strange began to happen. Communication systems flickered. Navigation, computers showed incorrect data. Weapons systems wouldn't respond to commands. On the Imperial capital, Emperor Vex was in the middle of ordering the planetary defense grid to fire on the approaching Earth ships when every screen in the command center went dark. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Unknown, Your Majesty," replied the chief technician. "We're experiencing system-wide failures across the entire network." "Fix it," Vex shouted. "We're trying, but the problem seems to be in the base code of our quantum communication system." As the Empire's military network collapsed into chaos, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Imperial garrisons on conquered worlds were losing control. Subject species were rising up, taking advantage of the confusion to fight for freedom. Captain Davis, monitoring the situation from the shadow, activated the comlink to Earth. "Admiral Walker, this is Davis. The Achilles device is working perfectly. The Imperial military network is collapsing. Their entire command structure is in disarray." "Excellent work, Captain," Walker replied. "Return to Earth immediately. Phase 3 is complete. Now we move to the final phase." On the Imperial capital, Council Member Tara entered the Emperor's private chambers without waiting for permission. Behind her were 4 other council members and a group of high-ranking military officers. "Your Majesty," she said firmly, "the war with Earth has become a disaster. Our forces are scattered. Rebellions have broken out on 17 worlds. The Council has voted. This conflict must end before we lose everything." Emperor Vex stared at her in disbelief. "You dare to challenge me?" "Not challenge, Your Majesty. Save. The Empire has stood for 10,000 years because we know when to fight and when to negotiate. These humans have proven themselves worthy opponents. We must treat them as such." The Emperor looked at the military officers. "And you agree with this cowardice?" The highest-ranking officer stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we cannot fight an enemy who can disable our entire communication network. We must adapt or we will fall." Vex sank into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 300 years. The empire he had ruled for decades was changing before his eyes, all because of one small blue planet that had sent a warning he had chosen to ignore. Captain Roy Davis stood tall as he entered the grand hall of the former Imperial Palace. 1 month had passed since the activation of the Achilles Protocol, and the galaxy had changed forever. The massive room, with its towering columns and ornate ceiling, was filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. Some were human, sent from Earth's various nations. Others were beings Davis had never seen before, former subjects of the Empire who had seized their freedom during the chaos. At the center of the hall stood a large round table, replacing the throne that Emperor Vex had once occupied. This was to be the first meeting of the new Galactic Council, with all members sitting as equals. Davis spotted Admiral Walker and Dr. Reed among the Earth delegation and made his way toward them. "Captain," Walker greeted him with a firm handshake. Good. To see you. Your mission was the turning point in this conflict. Davis shook his head. The Achilles protocol was the key. I just delivered the package. Dr. Reed smiled. Always modest, but without your team's successful infiltration, we might have lost everything. They looked around at the gathering delegates. Species of all shapes, sizes, and colors mingled freely, many meeting each other for the first time without imperial oversight. Hard to believe how much has changed in just a month, Davis said. Walker nodded. The Empire had kept these worlds isolated from each other, ruling through fear and division. Once their control systems failed, the whole system began to collapse. A tall being with 6 arms approached them. Admiral Walker of Earth? I am first, Speaker Lam of the Rigel system. My people wish to express our gratitude for your role in freeing us from imperial rule. Walker bowed slightly. We were fighting for our own survival, First Speaker, but we're glad others found freedom as well. The Achilles Protocol didn't just disrupt their military network, Dr. Reed explained. It exposed Emperor Vex's secret communications to all imperial worlds. They learned how he had been manipulating them for centuries, playing worlds against each other. First Speaker Lam nodded. Many of us had suspected, but without proof we dared not rebel. Your actions gave us the chance we needed. A chime sounded, indicating the meeting was about to begin. The delegates moved to take their seats around the great table. At one section sat the former imperial representatives, now led by Council Member Tara. Emperor Vex was nowhere to be seen. What happened to the Emperor? Davis asked quietly. Removed by his own military, Walker replied. He's under house arrest in one of his private palaces. The new imperial leadership is much more practical. The meeting began with Tara standing to address the gathering. Her voice was clear and carried throughout the hall. For 10,000 years, the Empire has ruled through force and fear. Today, we acknowledge that this approach has failed. The conflict with Earth has shown us that true strength comes not from conquest, but from cooperation. She looked directly at the Earth delegation. We underestimated humans. We saw their warning as the empty threat of a primitive species. We were wrong. Admiral Walker stood to respond. Earth did not seek this conflict. We only wished to protect our world and our freedom. Now we seek to build something better than endless war. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing a proposed treaty. Its terms were clear. The Empire would recognize Earth's complete sovereignty and the right of humans to establish colonies within their solar system. Earth would share certain technologies with former imperial worlds, helping to rebuild damaged planets. A mutual defense pact would be established, with all member worlds pledging to protect each other from external threats. No world would seek to conquer another, resolving disputes through the new Galactic Council. The debate continued for hours, with representatives raising concerns and suggesting changes. Davis was amazed at how civil the discussion remained, given that many of these species had been bitter enemies just weeks ago. By the day's end, the treaty was approved. The galaxy would move forward under a new system, not an empire, but a federation of equal worlds. As the meeting concluded, Davis found himself standing next to Tara. Your people fought well, she said, studying him with curious eyes. In all my years on the council, I never saw Emperor Vex so shaken as when he learned of your victory in the first battle. We had a good reason to fight, Davis replied. Everything we loved was at stake. Tara nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps that is what the Empire had forgotten, to fight for something more than power. 1 week later, Admiral Walker stood on a hill, overlooking the newly constructed memorial in what had once been the battlefield of Sydney. The black stone monument bore the names of every human who had died during the brief but fierce war. Dr. Reed joined him, looking older than her years. The conflict had taken its toll on everyone, but perhaps most on those who had spent decades preparing for it. 20 years of work, she said quietly. Sometimes I wasn't sure we'd ever be ready. Walker placed a hand on her shoulder. You gave humanity a fighting chance. Without Project Achilles, without the reverse-engineered technology, we would have been just another conquered world. Below them, Captain Davis was leading the first class of Earth's new galactic defense force, young men and women who would serve on Earth's growing fleet of starships. They would be the guardians of not just Earth, but all the worlds that had joined the Federation. "We've established the defense perimeter around our solar system," Walker told Reed. "The new detection grid can spot approaching ships 3 times farther than before. No one will ever catch us by surprise again." Reed smiled. "And our new allies have helped us improve the shield technology. It's being installed in all major cities and colonies." They watched as a ship took off from the nearby spaceport, one of the new joint human-alien vessels that would serve as peacekeepers throughout the sector. "The Empire chose war," Walker said, his eyes on the rising ship. "They ignored our warning. But from that mistake, something better has emerged." At the base of the memorial, a simple plaque bore the words that had become Earth's new motto in the galactic community. "Peace through strength, prosperity through cooperation. We sent a warning. Now we extend a hand." As the sun set over the memorial, ships from a dozen worlds passed overhead in formation, a salute to those who had fallen and a promise for a better future. Earth had found its place among the stars, not through conquest, but by standing firm when threatened and showing mercy when victorious. The galaxy would never be the same again, and neither would humanity.